So when you fly a Grumman, it's kind of like a lot of planes where they tell you the nose wheel's sort of the weak link and you end up babying it a little bit. You find yourself landing and holding back pressure as long as possible and not letting that front wheel touch until the plane's at the slowest possible speed, and you basically end up riding a wheelie at the end of your landing. This got me thinking, I wonder how long I could actually ride a wheelie. Could I ride a wheelie for an entire mile down a runway? And so that was sort of a challenge I pitched to myself. So I decided I was going to fly over to Alliance Airport because they have like an 11,000 foot runway. I decided if I could ride a wheelie in my aircraft, Alliance Airport would be a good place to do it because the runway is so long that if I did eat up an entire mile, I would still have over a mile left, so I'm not wasting a whole bunch of runway and putting myself in a situation that's not ideal. So on runways, the stripes are 120 feet long and the gaps in between are 80 feet. So basically from one point on a stripe to the same point on the next stripe is 200 feet. So that's what I'm using to determine that I've gone a mile, how far I've gone, etc. So let's get in the plane. We're going to go over to Alliance and see if we can ride a 1 mile wheelie in my Grumman.
Alright, today we're going to do some wheelies. How long of a wheelie can I ride in a plane when it's 14 gusting 1,000? Picked a really bad day to do this experiment, but it's the time I had free. Alright, everything looks clear. Northwest traffic coming in at 7 Juliet Bravo is crossing 1735 at Bravo, Northwest. Alright, good. Go do some wheelies. Northwest traffic coming in at 7 Juliet Bravo is departing runway 17. Will be a downwind departure to the north. Northwest traffic. Got the runway. Full power. Heels on the floor. A little bit of right rudder. Got a crosswind. There's 50. 55. And let's do this. Time to fly. Oh, it's a little bumpy. That's a beautiful Cherokee. Alright, there's a BY. Oh gosh. There's no way.
Once you get airborne and you start getting close to your destination airport, the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out which runway to use. You can call the tower or talk to other planes in the pattern, but the best thing is just figure out which way the wind's going. The best way to do that is just look down on the ground at the shadows and see which way the shadows are going. The shadows always go downwind, so you want to land towards any shadows that you see on the ground. Now you don't got to mess with the tower, you don't got to bother talking to other planes, you can just do your business and move on.
Alright, we're going to try, gotta focus on center line, keeping the nose up. Center line's important because I'm filming. Keeping the nose up is important because that's what a wheelie is.
So here I am approaching my first, we'll call it a landing even though I'm not going to fully land. And as I'm coming down, the idea is I want my main wheels to touch, but I don't want the front wheel to touch at all. I'm cutting a different few camera angles here, but at the end I'll show a complete uncut just in case anyone thinks it's not real. It's not like this is some magic, but or some great flying feat. So the back wheels are touching. I didn't trim it and hold it because the winds weren't consistent. It was pretty gusty, and so I'm having to adjust the yoke and adjust the power, just kind of keeping it right on that little sweet spot. And going down the runway, and I'd kind of figured out where a mile was in my mind based on the taxiways. I hadn't thought about counting the stripes at that point, and I wouldn't have been able to anyways. This is one of the more focused things I've had to do while flying. All right, enough talking. Here's a 1 mile, actually longer, wheelie in my Grumman at Alliance uncut. So that's all well and good. I took a snippet of some of this video and I uploaded it to one of my favorite Facebook groups, the North Texas Aviators. And one of my favorite Grumman people, a friend of mine named Mike, said that's very good, but now I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to do the whole thing with your mains 1 foot off the runway and maintain center line. And I thought to myself, there's no way I can do that, but I'm going to try. So the setup's the same. I went out on a different day and I decided this time I'm going to do my wheelie, but I'm not going to touch the ground. So I'm going to ride the wheelie in the air and I'm going to try to stay a foot off the runway. What I anticipated would happen is that I would get this video footage home and I would find out that I'm like 8 feet off the runway the whole time. And having gone and done it, I was very, very surprised to see how close I got to the runway without touching. What didn't surprise me was how much up and down there was. I knew that there was no way I was just going to lock it in at a certain distance, but there are moments when I'm about a foot off and there's moments when I'm maybe an inch or two off, but I never touched until the very end when I touched the mains and then did the first time ever I bounced to takeoff. So I'll show you that now with the different camera angles and kind of talk through what I'm doing.
Alright, I'm going to trim this and see if it helps me a little. Good.
So this is pretty much the same as the wheelie because now I'm doing the dance with the yoke and the throttle, but the only difference is I don't have the safety margin of being on the runway. It's a lot easier to be on the runway and just say, okay, there's no chance I'm going to go down any further. And so this became a little bit more of a dance because I don't want the wheels to touch. So I've got the angle and stuff, but out of my peripheral, I also kind of see where the wing is relative to the grass off the edge of the runway, and I'm trying to maintain that. And so the dance just now has another step to it. And so I was surprised I was able to do it actually. I did try this at one smaller airport first and I couldn't pull it off. I ended up hitting real hard and I thought, crap. And I thought, well, I'll go over to Alliance and go to the bigger airport and see if I can do it. And every time I did it at Alliance, I was able to do it just fine without touching. So it kind of surprised me. The weirdest thing about all of this was I didn't tell the tower what I was doing. I just said I was coming in for the option. And it takes like a minute, maybe a minute and a half. It felt like 10 minutes to go down the runway as slow as the plane will fly. And I kept waiting for him to ask if I was having trouble. I thought maybe I should tell him I'm goofing off or something. I don't know. Or I kept waiting for him to say, get off. There's other planes that want to land. But that didn't happen. And so I did, I think, with each of these trips over there to do the wheelie and then the low flying, I think it was 2 or 3 passes, and it was a pretty calm day. So anyway, that was it. I flew over the runway, footish off the ground or less without touching, and then also rode a wheelie for more than a mile. 2 things that I didn't know I could do, and kind of fun. So if you go with your instructor and you want to try something like this, it's definitely a new type of thing because you do slow flight in the air and there's all kinds of slop that you can get away with, and you're looking at your altimeter, and I mean, there's just a lot more forgiveness in there. But when you're this low to the ground, the dance is much smaller movements. The temptation to over control is there, but that'll end it in a split second. So you really just have to kind of finesse this dance the whole time. And it's pretty satisfying just to go, man, I just went a mile this high off the ground in an airplane. And when I did the low pass over the runway where I didn't touch, it was 13 gusting 20. So that was, and I thought I was kind of hoping that it would be, it was 1.6 and the wind was 1.60. I was hoping it would have had a crosswind because I think it'd be kind of cool to do that wheelie, you know, in a crab. Maybe I'll try to go out and do that one time. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, whatever. And you guys fly safe.